Robocop. The very name evokes the epitome of a cheesy 80s action flick, which, let's be honest, it kind of is. But I also happen to think that it's pretty much a perfect movie. What is it about this cyborg police officer that makes me love him so much? Let's find out as I break down why I love Robocop.
I'd buy that for $1.
Before we start, even though this movie is over 30 years old, there will be spoilers. So if you don't want a meditation on production company branding, tune out now. So let's kick this list off. Number 1, the Orion logo. Is it unique to Robocop? Nope, but it's definitely a part of it. For movie fans of a certain age, the Orion logo is like a fresh hit of pure nostalgia. In addition to releasing films like Caddyshack, The Terminator, and First Blood, Orion also produced Best Picture winners like Amadeus, Platoon, Dances with Wolves, and The Silence of the Lambs, before going bankrupt in the early 90s. Still, for me, seeing a movie with this logo takes me back to a different time and place. And there's nothing wrong with nostalgia, as long as it isn't blind or used by cynical studios to trick people into seeing a generic heartless sequel or remake. And while you're at it, bring back the old TriStar logo too. Number 2, the future. Movies set in the future are almost always set up for failure.
The future? Unbelievable.
And while Robocop's future tech, full of tube TVs and massive computers, seems quaint, it actually nails a lot of what would develop in the United States over the next few decades. From the corporations extending into every aspect of government and industry,
You got access to military weaponry?
We practically are the military.
to things like TV ads for serious medical conditions and devices.
You picked the heart. Extended warranties, financing.
Robocop sorta nails it. And you have to credit screenwriters Ed Neumeier and Michael Miner, who took the seeds of what they saw back in the 80s and built a future that, in many ways, doesn't look too different from our present.
Hospitals, prisons, space exploration. I say good business is where you find it.
Number 3, satire. Paul Verhoeven has a lot of tools in his arsenal. One of them is the name Verhoeven, which the internet has told me repeatedly is pronounced Verhoeven, but isn't.
My name is Paul Verhoeven.
But even more powerful than Verhoeven's Dutch name is his ability to execute satire, and Robocop's satire is particularly on point.
10,000 acres of wooded residential land were scorched in an instant when a laser cannon aboard the Strategic Defense Peace Platform misfired today during routine startup tests.
It paints a picture of a media that's either quasi-state-run or so heavily corporatized that it's invested in putting a positive spin on inherently negative stories.
Doctors at Henry Ford Memorial Hospital fight to save the life of Officer Frank Fredrickson. Good luck, Frank.
Add in things like reframing nuclear war as a literal game,
Nuke 'em. Get them before they get you.
and touting the American tradition of a high-polluting car with shitty gas mileage,
6000 SUX, an American tradition.
and you get a great look at Verhoeven, Neumeier, and Miner's dark vision of a possible future. Now, whether that actually came to pass, I guess that's up to you. Number 4, Peter Weller. Playing Robocop is kind of a thankless task, but Peter Weller totally crushes it in this movie. With relatively little screen time as Murphy, Weller provides the humanity needed to care for Robocop.
You probably don't think I'm a very nice guy.
Buddy, I think you're slime.
And as Robocop, he makes you believe that you're not just watching an actor in a suit, you're watching Murphy as a machine.
Murphy, it's you.
Weller also delivers range, from Robocop's almost deadpan delivery
Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble.
to the genuine emotion as Murphy's humanity emerges as the movie goes on.
I can feel them. But I can't remember them.
At every stage of Robocop's development, Peter Weller brings what's needed to keep the movie from becoming absolutely ridiculous and completely unbelievable. Number 5, Sleazeballs. If there was an 80s slime Hall of Fame, most of Robocop's supporting characters would be first ballot inductees. From Miguel Ferrer's Bob Morton, the poster boy for a sleazy 80s executive,
Now that's how it's done in the big leagues, Johnson. You see an opening, you go.
to a first-rate goon squad made up of stellar character actors Jesse D. Goins, Ray Wise, and Paul McCrane, RoboCop portrays the decay of old Detroit through these truly rotten characters. And no character is more rotten than the sleaziest sleazeball of them all. Number 6, Clarence Boddicker.
Can you fly, Bobby?
You know, I don't care how many times he calls Eric a dumbass on that 70s show, Kurtwood Smith will always be Clarence Boddicker to me.
Hey, Dickie boy. How's tricks?
Well, okay, Clarence and the weird half Shih Tzu president from Star Trek VI. Almost every line that comes out of Kurtwood Smith's mouth is dripping with equal parts slime and menace.
Bitches leave. Ooh, guns. Maybe you could, fit me in.
And not only is Clarence one of the most quotable bad guys of all time, he's also one of the most brutal. There are no visible soft edges to Clarence Boddicker. No mercy, no redemption, just a cold, murderous sociopathy.
The Tigers are playing. 2-9. I never miss a game.
Clarence is both simple and complicated, and Kurtwood Smith plays it beautifully.
Sayonara, Robocop!
Number 7, practical effects. Some might say that the practical effects in RoboCop date the film, and while the stop motion on Ed 209 and Dick Jones's weird long arms might boost that argument, I'd also argue that on the whole, they add to and enhance the movie's style and tone. First of all, there are several great matte paintings, which is a truly lost art. They're almost invisible throughout much of the film. And I'll take the practical legs and arms they built to integrate RoboCop's functions than all the computer trickery in the world. But the most effective practical effects also tie into one of Paul Verhoeven's favorite things, excess. And the practical blood and gore in RoboCop is both difficult to watch and at times comical. Murphy's death is made even more tragic by the grotesque effects that can't be replicated with cartoon blood. Emil's death is both revolting and hilarious, all due to the incredible makeup and effects work. The perfect comeuppance for a real piece of shit.
Don't touch me, man!
And squib work doesn't get any better than Ed 209's boardroom rampage. Even the elements that don't hold up as well, like the Ed 209 itself, still have a wry craftsmanship to them. I've always loved his little death twitch outside OCP headquarters. Listen, I'm not anti-computer animation. As a matter of fact, I think it can work beautifully, both at scale and when employed smartly in smaller movies. But I also think there's an irreplaceable quality to what reality can bring. And I can't imagine RoboCop in an era where all these practical touches are stripped out and replaced by safe, sanitized CGI. Oh wait, yeah I can. Yeah, not good. Number 8, perspective. One of my favorite artistic choices in RoboCop is the decision to show us Murphy's transformation firsthand, through his eyes.
Come on. That's for you. Go, Robo.
Now, as I mentioned before, if you're not on board with Murphy's journey, this movie gets real silly real fast. By putting us inside Murphy's head, we feel like we're experiencing this transformation along with him, as we see both his death and rebirth from his perspective. It keeps the audience tied into Murphy's humanity as OCP dismantles and dehumanizes him.
Well, I think we should lose the arm. What do you think, Johnson?
By keeping us in Murphy's shoes, the movie keeps us in Murphy's head, and we take this journey with him, not just watching him. Number 9, the RoboCop theme. Because it's used so sparingly, Basil Polidoris' RoboCop theme isn't as revered as the music from sci-fi contemporaries like The Terminator, but it is one hell of a workout track. Combining orchestral and industrial elements, it gives RoboCop both an emotional and a mechanical heartbeat that fits the film perfectly. Also, let's just take a moment to shout out Basil Polidoris himself, who did music for not just this movie, but both Schwarzenegger Conan films, Red Dawn, The Hunt for Red October, and another sci-fi collaboration with Paul Verhoeven, Starship Troopers. Not a bad resume. Number 10, the alley scene. In his first night on the job, Robo breaks up a lot of crime, but the alley scene combines everything that has made the character iconic. First of all, great entrance.
Let the woman go, you are under arrest.
We also get to see the cold lethality of his programming, combined with his ability to be a real dick-shooting hotshot. Top that off with Weller's deadpan delivery, which is both coldly mechanical and funny in its directness.
Madam, you have suffered an emotional shock. I will notify a rape crisis center.
When I think the future of law enforcement, I think about this scene.
Your move, creep.
Number 11, no romance. You gotta hand it to this movie to team up Murphy and Lewis and decide to have no romantic subplot between them. Somewhere in the darkest timeline, I'm sure there's a version of this film where Murphy finds his humanity through a tender kiss from his old partner. But RoboCop knows it doesn't need this, and the movie is better for it. Now, it's obvious that Murphy and Lewis do love each other, but it's a platonic love, like Riggs and Murtaugh, or Turner and Hooch.
Murphy, I'm a mess.
They'll fix you. They fix everything.
Number 12, business. I don't mean the kind of business OCP does. You know, they make products, like Robocops and stuff. No, I mean the little things that actors do physically that aren't dialogue. Like how Bob Morton pays absolutely no attention to the Ed 209 presentation. Or the way that Clarence puts his gum on the receptionist's nameplate. And my favorite, the way that Clarence also decides to dip his fingers in the drug lord's wine while he's talking to him. These are things that are sometimes written into the script, but are usually worked out between the actor and the director, either on set or during rehearsal. And while it may not be as flashy as a great line of dialogue, business can provide just as many insights into who a character is. Number 13, the pivot. RoboCop pulls off a really good switch/reveal about an hour in when Clarence is revealed to be working with Dick Jones.
Hello, buddy boy. Dick Jones here.
Up until now, the movie's been about Murphy's search for his true identity, set against the backdrop of OCP's corporate maneuvering and Clarence's crime spree. All three of these story points are brought together when Bob Morton is murdered by Clarence. Now the true story comes into focus as RoboCop has to fight through the very entity that created him to seek justice and vengeance for Murphy's death. In a lesser movie, this reveal would be saved for the third act, leading to the dreaded fourth act syndrome. For example, at the exact same point in both films, 1987's Murphy is walking into his final confrontation with Dick Jones at OCP, while 2014's Murphy is just learning about the corporate backstabbing that his 80s counterpart learned about in the second act.
Sellers can't afford to wake you up. He sent these guys to pull the plug. He wants you dead, Alex. You understand?
Here, Bob Morton's death is shocking because you don't expect it, and choosing to immediately reveal Dick Jones as the mastermind allows the film to move forward towards a satisfying conclusion.
I had to kill Bob Morton because he made a mistake. Now it's time to erase that mistake.
Also, bonus points to Dick Jones for knowing the difference between a robot and a cyborg.
He's a cyborg, you idiot!
Number 14, Murphy's journey. I briefly mentioned the monomyth and Joseph Campbell in my video about Jaws, and those same story points come into play here with Murphy. The movie first establishes Murphy's human elements, the gun spin, the way he talks to criminals.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Even the way he bottoms his car out as he leaves the parking garage. Then we see that humanity painfully, tragically taken away from him. First by Clarence and his goons, then by OCP and Bob Morton.
He doesn't have a name, he's got a program. He's product.
But we know that's not the case. Murphy's humanity begins to bleed through his programming.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
And he struggles to adjust to his new reality. Then we slowly see Murphy's machine parts stripped away, revealed first through just an eye, then his entire face. We now see Murphy as both man and machine. Ultimately, the two merge, and Murphy is reborn in the same factory where his humanity was taken from him. He arrives at OCP to literally meet his makers as the master of both worlds, now able to defeat Ed 209 easily and expose Dick Jones as the mastermind behind everything. All of this leads to the last line of the film, the final triumph of humanity over robotics.
Nice shooting, son. What's your name? Murphy.
This is an almost perfect story arc for Murphy, and it's also one of my favorite smash cuts to the credits of all time. It's efficiency in motion. Tell the story you need to tell, and go out on top. Number 15, Bixby Snyder. You probably know him best as the guy who says,
I'd buy that for $1.
Turns out the name of that show is It's Not My Problem, and it's the perfect backdrop for the dark future of RoboCop. Mindless, formless entertainment for the masses that relies on a single catchphrase as its only joke. It's also been reported that in the unproduced RoboCop sequel screenplay, RoboCop 2 Corporate Wars, that Bixby Snyder would have become president of the United States. A TV star becoming president? Wow. Science fiction is so unrealistic and far-fetched. What a cheesy movie this is. Those are just some of the reasons why I love RoboCop. What about you? Do you think I'm crazy? Do you prefer the 2014 version? And if so, why? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you want more of this kind of stuff, you can also check me out on Patreon for even more deep dives into movies and commentary. These are just a few of my producer-level patrons who help me keep everything up and running and get to enjoy everything I have to offer on Patreon. We'd love for you to join us and become part of Dan's film crew, so your move, creep. I'm just kidding. You're probably cool.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.